Our long national nightmare continues. President Trump is heading to Kenosha tomorrow, and he and his collaborators aren't even pretending to put politics aside.
These are people that every single night conduct violent acts, and it is in Democrat cities. Most of Donald Trump's America is peaceful.
Meanwhile, Democratic nominee Joe Biden is all about that UNITY.
We're all born with the right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. That's right, all of us.
Cool, but at a time of deep racial reckoning, what do you know? It's now all about whether white suburban voters are scared that Black Lives Matter has gone too far. Liz Landers is in Washington, D.C., trying to keep it all in perspective. Liz, how is fear factoring into the presidential campaign as it ramps up?
Both of these candidates are using fear in their messaging. Krishna, now we have moved into the general election phase of this campaign with the conventions over. And today we heard from Joe Biden saying that Trump's America is not safe. He also really hit the president on his coronavirus response. But the Trump campaign is saying the exact opposite. They're saying that in Joe Biden's America, the violence will continue, whereas if Trump is reelected, it will stop. The messaging war is heightening after a shooting at a Black Lives Matter protest, this time in Portland, with a victim who reportedly wore a hat with the logo of a far-right group. The president continues to defend counter-protesters, even those who shot paintballs and pepper spray, and he blames liberal Democratic officials. He's inciting violence and blaming opponents for it.
What do we want? Justice! When do we want it? Yeah!
This is in stark contrast to what we saw in D.C. on Friday, when tens of thousands of people peacefully protested in a second march on Washington. Cori Bush is a Black Lives Matter activist who defeated a 20-year House veteran in a Democratic primary and could soon be the first Black woman to represent Missouri in Congress.
Do you think Democrats and Republicans are doing enough right now to help Black Americans,
No.
to help with racial equality?
Not at all. Not at all. And you know what? I can't expect them to do something. We have different experiences. I have marched through 2 pair of boots alone. You know, somebody who I've been tear gassed more times than I can count. I've been shot with rubber bullets. And so I can speak to that differently, and I can advocate for what we need differently than somebody who's never been a part of it.
Almost 100 nights of protests have been largely peaceful. Protests that turn violent are the ones that get amplified, even distorted. Kevin Kramer's been protesting for Black Lives Matter in D.C. since June.
We as a people have learned if we don't burn shit down, the news doesn't cover it. Because when we're peaceful, no one covers that. But when we got a hot-ass mess and shit's ablazing, that's what's covering.
Some of these businesses are going to get lost in the protest mix, and you're okay with that?
Yes. If a business gets lost in the protest today, it's worth it to know that one day a Black boy, a Black girl can live right and not work in fear about being pulled over or being harassed or being shot or someone calling the cops on you in your own neighborhood, running down the street and being shot down by civilians. That's worth it.
It's been more than 50 years since Martin Luther King Jr. took to the steps of the Lincoln Memorial and demanded racial justice in this country. Thousands of people now in 2020 are taking to the streets to still demand for the same things. Do you feel that your father's dream has been realized?
Absolutely not.
Liz, while the D.C. march was peaceful, cities across the country have seen protests that have erupted in violence. Was there any concern among the March on Washington demonstrators that those other more violent protests are hurting their cause?
Yeah, Christian, it's a great question. I asked Cori Bush about that. She's one of these activists who's been taking to the streets for years. She said that she is actually not concerned. She said that she's seeing people who are activated, who have become radicalized in the past few months, who have never cared before about racial inequality like they do right now. So it's her hope that their positive message is going to override whatever the president is saying.
Liz Landers, thank you very much.